The WAFB Podcast Network is sponsored by Neighbors Federal Credit Union.
All right, what's up, everybody? John Eads with you here on Game Time. Be sure to like and subscribe. Appreciate y'all checking in with us. Earlier this week, I did a segment called, well, this is really what the thumbnail and the headline was. Can LSU beat Ole Miss? Obviously, the Tigers' next football game this coming weekend. The Rebels coming to town, a top 15 matchup. Ole Miss in the top 10. LSU just outside the top 10. Biggest game of the season, at least right now, for LSU. I know there's a lot more down the road. You've still got Texas A&M. You've still got Oklahoma. You've still got Arkansas. Every week through the rest of the season with this SEC schedule, it's going to be tough games week in, week out. But you can only work on, focus on, and talk about the one that's upcoming. So you got to get through Ole Miss if you want to continue and get to those other games and have championship aspirations. You've got to just go one at a time. I will say this. If the Tigers get this win against Ole Miss, they're in a really good spot because they can start to build that momentum and roll into the back half of the season. And that's a real thing, like gaining momentum, winning a game, getting the troops riled up to go and finish the season strong. That is a real thing. If they lose, kind of a different story. From there, your margin for error to make the playoff and stuff is extremely razor thin. 3 losses just about eliminates you from the playoff. 2 losses might all but eliminate you from the playoff. So, big, high-stakes game, LSU and Ole Miss. Now, before that, since we've reached kind of the midway point of the season with the bye week having come and gone now, I wanted to do a midseason awards list, kind of, who stepped up, who's the MVP, freshman of the year, all that kind of stuff. Here are the awards that we're handing out today. Team MVP, offensive MVP, defensive MVP, freshman of the year, rookie of the year, breakout player of the year. So pretty self-explanatory, pretty straightforward. 6 winners. Let's get into it. So for MVP, this one was pretty easy for me to pick. It was the first guy that popped into my head. Didn't do a whole lot of thinking and reevaluating. I think it has to be the quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier, and I know that might be kind of a mainstream, obvious pick, like you're always going to pick the quarterback. But if you don't have a good quarterback, you're not going to pick the quarterback. But think about this. I mean, in the South Carolina game, LSU put up 36 points. They needed the offense to win them that football game. Nichols, they needed the offense to win them that football game because the defense, kind of struggled, kind of buckled. UCLA, the offense really put that game away in the second half. And I believe in every game this year, Garrett Nussmeier and the offense are going to give this team a chance to win, much like Jaden Daniels did with the offense last season. So for me, he's been the guy that's had the biggest role individually in LSU winning football games this year, and obviously as the quarterback, that's naturally going to happen, but he's played really well. And I just kind of think that he's taken over this team. He's taken the torch from Jaden Daniels, so to speak, and he's now the team leader. Obviously, he's not as involved on the defensive side of things, but the quarterback is the straw that stirs the drink, really, for the whole team. You know what I mean? Because you score one more point than the other team, you win the game, and it seems like, again, LSU is going to be an offensive team. So, overall, I think he's the team MVP right now. He's really the guy that's fueling the car, or the bus, the Nuss bus. He's also the team offensive MVP. Those two just go hand in hand to me. Was there really a competition for that? Not really. I mean, you could give it to Aaron Anderson, who's leading the team in receiving. You could maybe give it to Emory Jones or Will Campbell in the offensive line. But Campbell's gotten a lot of penalties this year. I mean, not a lot, but, not timely. False starts, things like that. Though he is leading that offensive line, which is one of the best in the country, not allowing hardly any sacks this season. So I'm not criticizing Will Campbell at all, but I just think that Nussmeier's had a bigger role thus far. And obviously, Campbell's an offensive lineman, so it's going to be hard for him to win. And an MVP award. Kind of just the nature of playing that position. Anyways, let's move on. So I gave you MVP, offensive MVP, defensive MVP. I think it's got to be Braden Swinson. He's leading the team in sacks, leading the team in tackles for loss as well. I believe those two go with each other like peanut butter and jelly. Nobody else really has stood out to me on defense. I mean, Greg Penn's got a lot of tackles. Yes, that's nice. But he's not a guy that's making me turn my head either when I'm watching the game. Like, wow, what a play by Greg Penn. It's more of, dang, they just got a 7-yard run. And Greg Penn had to make the tackle. Nobody in the secondary has really impressed me. Ashton Stamps was good in fall camp. He's been good on the field, but he hasn't been, out of this world good to the point where, again, you're like, wow, what a play by that guy. That's Ashton Stamps, Savion Jones has had a good start to the season as well, but Swinson's gotten more pressure more consistently, though Swinson and Jones are almost even. So you could really give it to either one of those guys. Nobody else, I don't think, is competing for it except the edge guys, because what LSU's defense is doing well right now is forcing turnovers, getting pressure. Braden Swinson has had a lot to do with that. Moving on, freshman of the year. To me, this one was a pretty easy pick. Caden Durham. With the way that he's played since he was inserted against South Carolina, what he did in that game, scoring some massive touchdowns, finally showing a potent run game for LSU. He's picked up where he left off from that game, against South Alabama. He scored on the first play. He almost scored on, the second or third play. He had to leave early with injury, but he touched the ball 5 times and had over 150 all-purpose yards, if I'm not mistaken, 80 on the through the air, 70 some odd on the ground. And I know it was South Alabama, but that's impressive, man. And he should be the guy in that running back room going forward. Other contenders here, possibly Juwan Johnson. He had a couple nice plays at that running back spot. But there aren't a lot of other freshmen really to consider. Maybe Ahmad Bro. He's played well at defensive tackle. He's gotten an uptick in snaps recently. He's maybe a guy you could throw in there. That's really all I can think of, though. No other freshmen have really played much of a role on this team at the key positions. So, to me, it's got to be Caden Durham. And I think a lot of you out there would agree with that. And I think he's got a lot more to accomplish this season. Hopefully he's back and healthy for Ole Miss. LSU certainly needs him. Rookie of the year. So this is a guy that I didn't want to do it as another freshman or, give it to Durham as the rookie of the year. This is a guy that transferred in or is new to the team in some way, in some fashion. And I kind of had a hard time picking somebody because there isn't really, at this point, an obvious candidate for this. You got Jordan Gilbert at safety. He's gotten off to an start. Gio Paez done some good things at D tackle, but not consistently enough to pop off to me. Anybody else, transfer-wise? Not really. So it had to go to C.J. Daniels. He is another one of those transfers. I believe he's top 4 right now on the team in receiving, if not top 3. Kind of gotten off to a slower start. We haven't really seen a C.J. Daniels dominant effort, but it's because Aaron Anderson's getting a lot of touches. Mason Taylor's getting a lot of touches, and obviously Kyron Lacey is getting a lot of touches as well. So there's only so many to go around, but he's done well. He's up over 200 yards. Has been a bit of a security blanket for Garrett Nussmeier at times, has made some timely catches to move the sticks. And again, I think that his best football is ahead of him, especially if you have injuries. Hopefully not, but you know how it goes in a college football season. Guy's going to go down here and there. And we still haven't seen Chris Hilton. We still haven't seen Shelton Sampson. So maybe C.J. Daniels is just in a better opportunity to help the team than those guys are. And he's gotten off to a great start. So to me, he's the rookie of the year. And then finally, I've already mentioned this name, breakout player of the year. There's a couple different ways you could go with this pick. Trying to think of some of the possibilities. Maybe Jordan Allen. He's finally getting to start at safety. Sage Ryan has had a couple of good plays, but not enough. Ashton Stamps, possibly at that cornerback position. Whit Weeks, maybe at linebacker. West Weeks, another possible option. You go Savion Jones. You could go Braden Swinson again. I like to mix it up and give it to different guys, though, and he is very well deserving. Aaron Anderson, the Alabama transfer, Edna Carr alum, leading the team in receiving yards. Not receptions, that's Mason Taylor, but receiving yards. Who had that coming into the season? None of you. Everybody thought Kyron Lacey, maybe Chris Hilton, possibly Mason Taylor. Nobody had Aaron Anderson leading this team in receiving coming into the season. What he has done so far this year is remarkable. The guy had, I think, a dozen catches last year for maybe 70 yards. This year, he's over 300 yards, and it's only been 5 games. He could get up to 1,000 easily if he continues to do what he's been doing. And he's done it in a lot of different ways, man. He's basically serving as kind of the guy that Kyron Lacey was last year, but you see a little bit of Malik Neighbors in his game as well. The slot fades, the deep routes over the middle, the screen passes. He's producing in a litany of different ways. And he's doing it he's done it before, and he hasn't. Last year, he hardly played. He really wasn't a factor in this offense. Yet here he is, dominating and making some massive, massive catches. Like South Carolina, he went off that game. And LSU needed that. If Aaron Anderson doesn't make some of the catches he made in that ball game, they don't win that football game. Now, I want to see if he can continue to do it in SEC play against those better defenses, against those better secondary units. But Aaron Anderson has to be the breakout player of the year, in my opinion, because he went from not playing at Alabama to not really playing at LSU to Nick Saban saying, hey, you know you would be playing a lot more if you stayed at LSU. Now he's LSU's leading receiver 1 year later. Remarkable. He had a great camp. That's carried over into the season. So good for Aaron Anderson, man. You just love to see that stuff. So let me run back through my awards. MVP went to Garrett Nussmeier. Offensive MVP went to Garrett Nussmeier. Defensive MVP, Braden Swinson. Freshman of the Year, Caden Durham. Rookie of the Year, CJ Daniels. And Breakout Player of the Year is Aaron Anderson. We will revisit these at the end of the season. To be honest with you, I don't really see any of these changing. But maybe it's a good thing if some of these change, because that means LSU's better as a collective football team. And maybe that means they pull off double-digit wins like I predicted preseason and make the college football playoff like I also predicted preseason. That wouldn't be bad to have too many options. Some of these I had a hard time picking, and that's not a position you want to be in. You know, that means you don't have a lot of talent and good players in your football team. So when we do this again at the end of the season or later on, whatever, I want to have a harder and more difficult time choosing some of these awards. But anyways, let me know what you think, if you agree or disagree with any of these. I need reasoning, though. Give me reasoning as to why you agree or disagree. Don't just go down there saying, oh, what a dumb pick, or blah, I would have put this guy. Tell me why. Let's have a discussion, you know? Oh, I'm just saying. I like to have a good, lively debate with you guys. So, like and subscribe. Appreciate y'all. Check back in for game time later this week. We'll be talking LSU, Ole Miss, biggest game of the year. We're bringing the juice. Catch you there.